Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Dr. Tosif Anwar. Today we will discuss another important disease of the adrenal gland, which is known as primary hyperaldosteronism. Primary hyperaldosteronism is a clinical syndrome characterized by hypertension, hypokalemia, low plasma renin activity, and excessive and autonomous secretion of aldosterone hormone. This is a relatively common condition. 10 to 12% of patients with hypertension can have primary hyperaldosteronism. It is more common in females. Aldosterone is a mineralocorticoid hormone secreted from zona glomerulosa of the adrenal cortex. It regulates concentration of sodium and potassium in the blood. Under its effect, kidneys conserve sodium and excrete potassium. It responds to changes in composition of plasma and is linked to renin-angiotensin system of the kidney. Aldosterone concentration is mainly regulated by angiotensin II. ACTH plays a minor role in its regulation. Low blood pressure and low plasma sodium level stimulate juxtaglomerular cells to release an enzyme which is known as renin. Renin converts angiotensinogen to angiotensin I. Angiotensin I is converted to angiotensin II by angiotensin converting enzyme. Angiotensin II stimulates adrenal glands to release aldosterone. Aldosterone acts on the kidney to conserve sodium and excrete potassium. Water is retained through osmosis. Under effect of aldosterone, blood pressure and sodium concentration return towards normal, inhibiting further secretion of renin. Under physiological conditions, aldosterone acts on distal tubular cells to increase reabsorption of sodium and secretion of potassium and hydrogen ion. Under setting of excessive aldosterone levels, hypokalemia may occur, which leads to muscle paralysis, and increased tubular hydrogen secretion leads to alkalosis. Most patients with primary hyperaldosteronism are generally asymptomatic at presentation, and the only finding is an elevated blood pressure level. However, if significant hypokalemia or hypomagnesemia is present, other possible features may include muscle cramping, weakness, paresthesias, polyuria, and polydipsia. The four most important clinical entities constituting primary aldosteronism are bilateral hyperplasia of the zona glomerulosa, which is commonly termed idiopathic hyperaldosteronism, solitary aldosterone producing adenomas, adrenal carcinoma, and glucocorticoid remediable aldosteronism. Among these, idiopathic hyperaldosteronism and aldosterone producing adenoma are the most important causes, accounting for 60% and 40% of the cases respectively. Primary hyperaldosteronism should be differentiated from secondary causes of hyperaldosteronism, which include excessive use of diuretics, vomiting and diarrhea which lead to dehydration, renal artery stenosis, and renal secreting tumors. Another condition which should be differentiated from primary hyperaldosteronism is Liddle syndrome. This is an autosomal dominant syndrome having faulty sodium channels which lead to sodium reabsorption and potassium excretion. But in this condition, aldosterone levels are normal or low. Cushing syndrome, pheochromocytoma, and certain forms of congenital adrenal hyperplasia can mimic some features of primary hyperaldosteronism. Well, who should be screened for primary hyperaldosteronism? As you know, about 30% of the adult population has history of hypertension. Screening for primary hyperaldosteronism must be judicious. Case detection should be targeted to 4 groups of patients. Number 1. Young patients with moderate to severe hypertension, JNC stage 2, with blood pressure levels 160 to 179 systolic and 100 to 109 diastolic. Or stage 3, with blood pressure levels of 180 by 110 millimeter of mercury. In this group, prevalence of primary hyperaldosteronism is 8% to 13%. Number 2. Patients with resistant hypertension. Blood pressure higher than 140 by 90 mm of mercury despite treatment with 3 antihypertensive medications. Prevalence of primary hyperaldosteronism in this group is 17% to 23%. Number 3. Hypertensive patients with spontaneous or diuretic induced hypokalemia. Prevalence of primary hyperaldosteronism in this group is up to 50%. Number 4. Patients with adrenal incidentalomas who have hypertension. Prevalence in this group is 1 to 10%. Workup for primary hyperaldosteronism starts with routine biochemical tests. Routine tests can be suggestive but are not diagnostic of primary hyperaldosteronism. Common abnormalities are spontaneous hypokalemia or moderately severe hypokalemia while receiving conventional doses of diuretics, possibly alkalosis and hypernatremia. The initial screening test for primary hyperaldosteronism is with simultaneous measurement of mid-morning ambulatory plasma renal activity and plasma aldosterone concentration in a volume replete normocalemic patient. Testing is considered positive if plasma aldosterone concentration is frankly elevated, that is more than 50 nanogram per deciliter, and plasma renal activity is suppressed, and plasma aldosterone concentration to plasma renal activity ratio is greater than 30. Many medications including common antihypertensive agents can affect measurement of plasma aldosterone concentration and plasma renal activity or both. However, because patients undergoing screening often have drug-resistant hypertension, discontinuing all potentially offending medications can be unsafe. Mineralocorticoid receptor antagonists like spironolactone and eplerenone should be stopped 4 to 6 weeks prior to testing. Diuretics should also be discontinued. Most other medications can be continued, but results must be interpreted in context of the clinical scenario. For example, if plasma renal activity is suppressed despite treatment with an ACE inhibitor or angiotensin receptor blocker, primary hyperaldosteronism is more likely. If results are difficult to interpret, repeat testing after eliminating potential interfering medications is advised. Verapamil, hydralazine, and alpha blockers like doxazosine can be substituted for blood pressure control if necessary. This table demonstrates the effect of commonly prescribed medications on measurement of plasma renal activity and plasma aldosterone concentration. Potentially beta blockers, central alpha-2 receptor agonists, and direct renin inhibitors all greatly reduce plasma renal activity and slightly reduce plasma aldosterone concentration, resulting in false high levels of the ratio of plasma aldosterone concentration to plasma renal activity. On the other hand, angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors, angiotensin receptor blockers, dihydropyridine calcium channel blockers, diuretics, and mineralocorticoid receptor antagonists all greatly increase plasma renal activity and slightly increase plasma aldosterone concentration, resulting in fast low level of plasma aldosterone concentration to plasma renal activity ratio. In most cases of primary hyperaldosteronism, confirmatory testing is performed except when initial testing is diagnostic for primary hyperaldosteronism. As in cases of spontaneous hypokalemia with undetectable plasma renin activity and plasma aldosterone concentration greater than 30 nanogram per deciliter. Confirmatory tests include oral and intravenous salt loading tests and fludrocortisone suppression test and captopril challenge test. But the most commonly used tests are oral and intravascular salt loading test. Normally, intravascular volume expansion should suppress aldosterone secretion. In the oral sodium loading test, the patient consumes more than 200 millimoles or 6 grams of dietary sodium for 3 days, and then from day 3 through day 4, a 24-hour urine collection for aldosterone and sodium is collected. Usually, excretion of aldosterone that exceeds more than 12 microgram per day confirms a diagnosis of primary hyperaldosteronism. Urinary sodium excretion of at least 200 millimoles per day ensures adequacy of the test. An alternative test is acute volume expansion by intravenous administration of 2 liters of normal saline over 4 hours with measurement of plasma aldosterone concentration at baseline and at the end of saline infusion. Failure of the plasma aldosterone concentration at 4 hours to fall to less than 50% of the baseline also confirms the diagnosis. After confirmation of primary hyperaldosteronism, we try to differentiate between aldosterone producing adenomas and idiopathic hyperaldosteronism. It is important to differentiate between these two conditions because aldosterone producing adenomas are amenable to surgical resection while idiopathic hyperaldosteronism is treated medically. An important test in this regard is renin aldosterone stimulation test or posture test. In this test, baseline concentration of aldosterone and plasma renin activities are taken when the patient is recumbent, and another set is taken when patient assumes an erect posture after 4 hours. Serum aldosterone concentrations typically rise at least 50% above baseline in healthy persons, in persons with essential hypertension, and in a subgroup of patients with primary hyperaldosteronism who have idiopathic adrenal hyperplasia. While among patients with aldosterone producing adenomas, these concentrations do not rise or paradoxically fall to below baseline level. Once the diagnosis of primary hyperaldosteronism has been confirmed biochemically, radiographic localization with abdominal CT scan is indicated. CT scan is preferred over MRI because of similar efficacy and lower cost. Adrenal hyperplasia can be visualized, and adrenal adenomas and carcinomas can be differentiated radiologically. Another way to differentiate between adrenal adenomas and carcinomas is adrenal scanning with iodocholesterol or 6-beta iodomethyl norcholesterol after dexamethasone suppression. The uptake of tracer is increased in those with aldosterone adenomas and absent in those with idiopathic hyperaldosteronism and adrenal carcinoma. Bilateral adrenal vein sampling is needed in most patients to determine the source of aldosterone secretion when imaging is unrevealing, and to confirm lateralization when imaging demonstrates an adrenal adenoma. Adrenal vein sampling is especially important in older patients because of a higher frequency of non-functioning adrenal adenomas. This slide demonstrates the role of adrenal vein sampling to differentiate between idiopathic hyperaldosteronism and aldosterone producing adenomas. Sometimes CT scan reveals normal anatomy, but there is high probability of aldosterone producing adenomas. In this case, adrenal vein sampling can be done, and if it shows lateralization, then treat it as adenomas. That is, treat it surgically. On the other hand, sometimes CT scan reveals bilateral masses, but the probability of aldosterone producing adenoma is very low. Again, adrenal vein sampling can help. If there is no lateralization with adrenal vein sampling, then treat this as idiopathic hyperaldosteronism. In cases of unilateral hypodense nodule more than 1 cm and marked elevation of plasma aldosterone, if patient is less than 35 years old, treat it as an adenoma, and if patient is more than 35 years old, then do adrenal vein sampling, and if it shows lateralization, treat surgically, otherwise treat as idiopathic hyperaldosteronism. Why it is important to differentiate between idiopathic hyperaldosteronism and aldosterone producing adenomas? Number 1. Aldosterone producing adenomas are surgically curable form of primary hyperaldosteronism, while idiopathic hyperaldosteronism is not. Number 2. Aldosterone producing adenomas produce greater amounts of aldosterone than other forms of primary hyperaldosteronism. Consequently, the degrees of hypertension and biochemical abnormalities tend to be more severe. Number 3. Aldosterone producing adenomas demonstrate partial autonomy of function, secreting aldosterone in response to stimulation by corticotropin, but not by angiotensin II. Aldosterone synthesis by these tumors therefore parallels the normal circadian rhythm of ACTH secretion, with the highest serum aldosterone concentration occurring in the mornings and the lowest in the evening. The goals of treatment include improvement in blood pressure. Actually, resolution of hypertension is very unlikely. Normalization of serum potassium and reduction in plasma aldosterone, because hyperaldosteronemia is associated with a blood pressure independent increase in cardiovascular events. There are some non-pharmacological measures which can be taken, which include regular monitoring and control of blood pressure, low sodium diet, avoidance of tobacco use, and maintenance of ideal body weight and regular exercise. The treatment of choice for aldosterone producing adenomas or unilateral adrenal hyperplasia is laparoscopic adrenalectomy. Meanwhile, blood pressure and hypokalemia should be controlled with spironolactone, amiloride, or ACE inhibitors. For patients with bilateral adrenal hyperplasia and those with unilateral causes of primary hyperaldosteronism who are not candidate for surgery, chronic medical therapy to control blood pressure and hypokalemia is necessary in all patients. Spironolactone is the most commonly used medication due to its proven efficacy and cost effectiveness. Eplerenone is more selective and it's less likely to cause side effects which are seen with spironolactone, that is gynecomastia in men and menstrual irregularities in women. Amiloride is a potassium sparing diuretic that blocks the aldosterone sensitive sodium channels. Amyloid and ACE inhibitors are second-line therapy because of their lower efficacy. Glucocorticoid remediable hyperaldosteronism is a form of hyperaldosteronism in which the hypersecretion of aldosterone can be reversed with physiological dose of glucocorticoids. It is a rare disorder and is due to a chimeric gene mutation on chromosome 8. It is characterized by early onset hypertension that is usually severe and refractory to conventional antihypertensive agents, aldosterone excess and suppressed plasma renal activity, and excess production of 18-hydroxycortisol and 18-oxycortisol. Mineralocorticoid production is regulated by ACTH instead of the normal secretagogue angiotensin II. Therefore, aldosterone secretion can be suppressed by glucocorticoid therapy. Unilateral adrenalectomy normalizes hypertension and hypokalemia in 70% of patients with aldosterone-producing adenomas after 1 year. After 5 years, 50% of the patients remain normotensive. Clinical trials have shown that primary aldosteronism is characterized by partially reversible renal dysfunction in which elevated albuminuria is a marker of a dynamic rather than structural renal defect. Frequent monitoring of blood pressure and electrolytes post-operatively is necessary because normotension after unilateral adrenalectomy may take up to 4 months. Recent investigations regarding serum aldosterone and incidence of hypertension in normotensive patients indicate that increased aldosterone levels within the physiological range can predispose to the development of hypertension. In the end, some key points to remember. Number 1. Spontaneous hypokalemia in a hypertensive patient should suggest the possibility of primary or secondary hyperaldosteronism, but normokalemic hypertension is the most common presentation. Number 2. Primary hyperaldosteronism may be due to bilateral hyperplasia or a small adrenal adenoma. Number 3. The best screen for primary aldosteronism is a plasma aldosterone concentration to plasma renal activity ratio greater than 30 with plasma aldosterone concentration greater than 15 nanogram per deciliter. Number 4. Primary hyperaldosteronism is confirmed with a 24-hour urine aldosterone level greater than 12 micrograms per day after salt loading. Number 5. Because computed tomography and magnetic resonance imaging are often unable to distinguish adenomas from hyperplasia, adrenal venous sampling may be necessary to localize the lesion. Number 6. Adenomas are treated surgically while bilateral hyperplasia is treated pharmacologically.